Today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders confirmed that President Trump and First Lady Melania will go to Pittsburgh tomorrow to show their support and grieve with the community.
The president cherishes the American Jewish community for everything it stands for and contributes to our country. He adores Jewish Americans as part of his own family. The president is the grandfather of several Jewish grandchildren. His daughter is a Jewish American, and his son-in-law is a descendant of Holocaust survivors. Tomorrow, the President and First Lady will travel to Pennsylvania to express the support of the American people and grieve with the Pittsburgh community.
The shooting has already been politicized, and there has been mixed reactions to the president's upcoming visit. But Tree of Life Rabbi Jeffrey Meyer says the president is always welcome. For the 360 Views tonight, we go to our liberal, Rick Ungar, and senior political contributor at Forbes and host of the Pod Complex, and our conservative Ned Ryun, CEO of the American Majority. Thanks for joining us.
Always great to be with you, Scotty.
That's fantastic. Rick, I have to ask you, you have been to this synagogue before. Tell us a little bit about the congregation and the community.
Well, you know, Squirrel Hill, and I apologize for my voice. It's that time of year. Squirrel Hill is a wonderful community. I spent a lot of my years as a child there. It's a great community. I've been in that temple many times. It's such a horrible tragedy and such a terrible place to have to experience it.
Well, that's the thing, Ned. So let me ask this question. Let's go to the political side of this, because I know this has been difficult, but we do have to talk about the politics because everybody else seems to be bringing it up. Do you think there's any reason to believe that the political vitriol we have seen over the last few years played into this?
Well, I think your previous guest made a really good point that highlights a conversation we have to have about mental illness. You know, in this hyper-political world, Scotty, one of my first reactions when the shooting took place was, not everything is political. Sometimes crazy, violent criminals do violent criminal acts, and it's not all about politics. There's evil in the world. There always has been evil. People do evil acts. And so I think one of the things that I think Trump did that was very good is, first of all, he named it. He said this is evil. And then he said it's a violent anti-Semitic attack, which is an attack on all humanity, and it's an attack on all Americans, and there's no place for it in our society. And so when I see people trying to hyper-politicize this event, this is a tragedy. This is deeply anti-Semitic. It has no place in our society. And I think both right and left need to be very strong in their repudiation of it anytime they see it on their side. And Rick knows this. I took a pretty strong stance against the alt-right about 2 years ago because of their white nationalism, because of their anti-Semitic rhetoric. I want to see people on the left take a very strong stance against people like Louis Farrakhan for some of the things that he has said, and basically call upon Maxine Waters and Keith Ellison and others who have identified with him to repudiate him and say we will no longer identify with this kind of rhetoric because of the implications of it.
Well, that's interesting, Ned, that you point that out, and you're happy with the president's response. But, Rick, so many were not happy with the president's response and are quick to blame all of his tweets, all of his accusations, saying that he has caused this environment of hate, so therefore putting the blame on him for this. So why is everybody in cases like this so quick to blame presidents and politicians rather than the shooters themselves directly for these types of events?
I think it's because it's easier than confronting the real problem. Listen, I agree with every word my friend Ned just said. I really do, and he's telling the truth when he says that he came out against alt-right people 2 years ago, and I hope he knows that I have been very vocal in my opposition to Louis Farrakhan. He's an anti-Semite. I'm Jewish. It's very simple. But look, I am not a big fan of the way the president conducts his dialogue. I don't think it's in the best interest of the nation, but that doesn't mean that I get to blame every terrible thing that happens in this country on the president. I don't blame him for this. I blame this crackpot who did it, and I blame the other anti-Semitics in this country who are rooting for it, and I don't want our attention to be diverted by the political war we insist on having when that's not the real issue.
Well, to that point, Ned, you know, that's a great point that Rick's bringing up. However, not everybody's agreeing with him today. I mean, they are literally casting the blame on Donald Trump, on the President Trump, saying that he basically caused this to a certain extent because of what he's saying, despite the killer being anti-Trump and anti-Semitic at the same time. Somehow they're able to spin it and put it back on his feet. You know, is that going to be the case for the next 2 years? Is everything bad that happens in this country going to be blamed on the president by some, or can we find a way to make them happy?
You know, Scotty, I'm afraid that we're going to be seeing this for the next 2 years, and I would argue, and I know Rick's not going to be happy about this when I say the next 6 years, because I do think Trump will be reelected. I think the media has declared open war against him. They have decided they are the opposition party. They will do whatever it takes to bring down Trump. I would argue, and I know Rick and I have had this conversation, at times Trump can be his own worst enemy in some of his dialogue, but at the same time, the media has, I think, literally dropped all journalistic standards many times because they are intent on bringing him down and blaming him for literally everything. The good news is, Scotty, I think a lot of the American people outside of the Acela corridor, that bubble, have pretty much shut out the mainstream media, and they're not listening to this rhetoric, this narrative that they're trying to drive. They see what Trump is doing. They understand what he's trying to do, not only on this issue of really forcefully confronting it, but also on his economic policies and other things. And they're looking at this going, they're behind Trump. The media has really shown its true colors. They're not listening to the media as much as people think they might be. Well,
that's the thing, Rick. You know, the people still do watch the news on that side of it, and we're going to find out in a few weeks how much effect this has on the midterm elections. Is the media going to learn their lesson at any point of saying, listen, maybe we can actually put the fault where the fault is due. Let's give the credit where it's due. Or are they going to continue the same path they've done the last 2 years and see where that's gotten them?
Well, we got to wait and see what happens in the elections. I think we're going to learn a lot about where the country is in the upcoming midterms. I don't know what the answers are going to be. Look, media does play a role in it. At the same time, excuse me, at the same time, everybody's got to look at themselves. Look, I want the rhetoric toned down. That has to start with me. It has to start with each and every one of us. The one place where I will say this about the president, I agree with him when he points out that you blame the person who did the crime, but then don't turn around in the next minute and blame the media. Every one of us has responsibility here. Every one of us can help to change this situation if we're interested in doing it.
Absolutely. So, Rick, go get some hot tea and lemon for that throat. Ned, thanks for joining us and having a very civil conversation. And this is going to be one that I think we're going to continue to have, at least for the next 2 years, maybe 6.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.